Hey everybody, I hope you all are doing well and welcome back to Michael's Matters. And of course, I am Michael. And this week I want to talk about some really interesting updates that are being proposed to improve the lives of seniors, retirees, and folks who are receiving Social Security benefits. So that could be things like Social Security Retirement, Social Security Disability, or SSDI, Supplemental Security Income, SSI, as well as the VA and Railroad Retirement benefits. This is because there are some proposals that would change the fundamental way the cost of living adjustment, or COLA, is calculated that could put thousands of dollars into the pockets of our friends and our neighbors and our family members who are currently receiving Social Security benefits. Additionally, there is a possibility that the baseline minimum amount of Social Security benefit that someone could receive, even if they only worked minimally, could be increased to help those folks receive the lowest Social Security checks right now to get a little bit more. And then lastly, I want to muse the idea that some Republican members of Congress had proposed about allowing folks to tap into their Social Security benefits earlier than 62 years old for specific life events. So today we are talking about proposed changes to the COLA that would help seniors, increases to the minimum Social Security benefits amounts for lower income beneficiaries, and whether or not Americans should be able to take money out of their Social Security benefits earlier than at 62 for specific reasons. Now, this is Michael's Matters, and before we get to it, if you do like these videos, if you find them interesting, if you find them at least useful or helpful, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and make sure you hit that notification button as well so you can get updates when my newest and most informative videos get put up. All right, now let's get down to it. So today I want to start off with the proposed upgrade that is in the recently redesigned Social Security Expansion Act that would really provide a lot of additional assistance to folks who are typically receiving the lowest Social Security check amounts, which for 2022, just in case you were wondering, it ranges actually from $45.50 a month on the low side up to $950.80 on the high side. And again, that range is going to depend on the amount of time that someone has paid in. But even at the highest amount for this lowest range, I guess kind of oxymoron, at $950.80 a month, it's easy to see that this is obviously not a livable benefit, not even part of a livable benefit. Depending where you are in the country, it could be even less so. I mean, especially here in California, but it doesn't matter where you are in the country, $950.80 is not going to help you. Now, the people who tend to get these lower amounts are those Americans who maybe they didn't work full time during their working years, or they got paid the minimum amount of the minimum wage while they were working during that time. And when we think of the way that Social Security works, I mean, it's basically based off two things: the length of time that someone has worked and the amount of money you got on your paycheck, because that's where the tax comes out. So assuming you worked the minimum amount of quarters and got paid at least the minimum amount of wage, that could mean that your benefits are going to end up being lower than what you could actually live on. So that's why there is this special minimum amount. That's why it exists. And again, as a side note, and I don't know why I'm including this, but I thought it was really interesting. The Social Security benefits that both President Biden and the First Lady are receiving on a monthly, if you were ever wondering about it, is at $4,555 a month, according to their 2021 taxes. I just came across that, thought it was really interesting. Anyway, so under this new proposed rule for the special minimum amount for Social Security beneficiaries with the lowest income, it would be changed to match the necessary income to equate to 125% of the federal poverty level. So what that means is instead of having a set minimum of $950.80, which is the max of the minimum that you could get, Social Security beneficiaries would have a moving benefit that increases every single year as the federal poverty level increases, so they line up with 125%. So in 2022, the line between being impoverished and not being impoverished, so the federal poverty line, that would be 100% of the federal poverty line, is set at a yearly income of $12,880 for a single person. So if they were to have their income adjusted now in 2022 to meet that 125% FPL, that would put a single person's income at $16,100 a year, which comes out to $1,341 a month, which is definitely a lot more than that $950. That also means that if these changes do go through, folks whose minimums are at $950 will go up by $300 and some odd dollars, $380, $390, or essentially basically 40% more. Additionally, and equally as important to the increase is the fact that the FPL calculator changes every single year. So it's not a set dollar amount, but it's more akin to the cost of living adjustment, or COLA. So as the inflation and other factors go around that make cost more expensive for living, the FPL goes up to match it. So whenever they're at 125%, it'll always go up to match that as well. So I think that is a much better adjustment than just having a flat amount. Now, of course, this is just one of the fixes that could and really should be implemented as the serious efforts to reform Social Security program get tossed around. And these kind of things, they really do, ultimately mean the difference of life and death of low-income seniors and retirees around the country. Now, for another interesting take on Social Security benefits is something that has been proposed by some of the more, I guess we'll call them Senate Republican members of Congress, Senator Marco Rubio out of Florida and Senator Mitt Romney out of Utah. And under their proposed legislation called the New Parents Act, they are proposing to allow parents to take up to 3 months of parental leave that would come out of their Social Security retirement benefits. Now, of course, it is true that Americans do get less parental leave than pretty much any other country on the planet. Basically just to tie with Djibouti. But it's not to say that Americans should also get 43 weeks or basically a year off when they have children, just like in Greece. But I guess this brings up really a bigger question, especially for people like me who are farther away from retirement. That seems to be getting farther and farther away as Social Security retirement age get higher, and also the likelihood of even Social Security being in full strength by the time I get there, becoming infinitesimal. Should people be able to use these benefits now? It is common with 401ks and some of the other retirement plans that have special provisions that would allow you to take money out early if you need it, like in cases of emergency or life changes like that. So, this is kind of what's being proposed. And of course, I'm super curious what you all think. And I know on the YouTube demographics, a lot of you tend to be a little closer to retirement or into retirement than I have. So it'd be interesting to see what you all think from your side of it. But for me, I feel like this is a pretty bad idea. Now, let me rephrase it. So it is the right idea that people do need more parental leave, but paying for it through Social Security is pretty much the worst way to do it. First, because Social Security is not like a bank account. You don't get to put your money in and then get it back with interest. That's not how it works. Rather, it's a pool of money that everyone siphons off when they need it. So essentially, if younger people having children, they would be able to take that money away from seniors who've already paid into it through all their working careers. That doesn't seem fair. Secondly, the money being taken out by younger people is actually worth more now than it will be when they pull it out. So due to things like inflation and other increased costs. So they're essentially hurting the system even more now because they're pulling out more valuable money. So not only are they hampering the program in the long run by taking out more valuable money now, they're also hampering it in the short run because they're taking out money away from seniors. When in reality, in all likelihood, the people who are having children right now, and, I may note that the average household size in Utah, where Senator Romney, the person sponsoring this bill, is 18% larger, so they tend to have bigger families than the national average. But these folks are in their prime working years in their life and will be able to reap the benefits down the road of that additional money they put into their Social Security when they do retire, rather than taking the money now away from seniors and retirees who already put it in. So again, let me know what you think about this one. I applaud the effort by Republicans to try to have some sort of reasonable, constructive changes to Social Security rather than just kind of shutting it down or some of the other crazy things they've been coming out with. But in this case, it sounds like a good idea, especially for younger people. But the intended or the unintended results would definitely hurt seniors at the benefits of children-bearing families. Now, last for today, I want to talk about one of the biggest changes to how the cost of living adjustment, or COLA, is being bandied around. Of course, with any sort of large bureaucratic offices and bureaucratic systems and government entities, even the most minor changes can take years to implicate. And they seem Byzantine and obscure, but this one is desperately needed because it improves the way the yearly cost of living adjustment, or COLA, is calculated to really, truly better reflect the needs that seniors and retirees have in our country, and furthermore, to address them in a realistic way. Now, the change is to modify the calculator for the base input information that is used for the COLA. I know that sounds a little complex, but we'll talk about it here. Right now, the Consumer Price Index for urban workers, or the CPIW, is what is used to judge the amount of inflation in the economy, which in turn affects how much of an increase people get when they retire on their COLA adjustments every year. The CPIW is a basket of goods that have their prices tracked. So basically, like, it tracks the change in the cost of things like toothpaste and gas and television, and they can change out what's in the basket, which items are in the basket, and it's a lot. It's a lot of items. But then they compare those same prices year over year. To set an example of this specifically for the cola, what they do is they take the CPIW for the months of July, August, and September for every year, and then they see how those prices have either grown or shrunk over those 3 months from year to year. If those prices go up, the percentage they go up on average for the 3 months represents how much people on Social Security, SSDI, SSI, and other governmental pensions get in their next year's benefit. Also, as a side note, we won't know the new COLA for 2023 until October 13, but we will put up a new video on that day. Mark your calendars. It's a big one. Now, the fundamental flaw in this process is that the CPIW is designed to describe the lives of the average urban clerical worker. But most seniors and retirees in our country, well, they're no longer urban workers. So they're definitely outside the average and tend to have different costs that seniors disproportionately have to face. So, for example, the average urban worker may spend more money on things like booze and diapers and gas as they have to commute back and forth to work, whereas seniors on average pay more for things like medications or healthcare costs or doctor's visits. So what is being proposed is to use a basket of goods called the CPIE, or the CPI for elderly, which more accurately incorporates the additional things that seniors end up paying for and ultimately de-emphasizes the costs that they don't have to pay for things like booze and diapers and gas, for example. And this will end up making a big difference. Now, if you can look at a chart here, it shows the difference of the CPIE and the CPIW over the last 30 odd years. And you can see that for 2019 and 2020, the CPIE was actually higher than the CPIW. Now, in 2021, the CPIW was higher, but that's primarily because the crazy increase of costs of goods and gas during the pandemic and the people not going as much to the doctors and using healthcare, normal healthcare during that time frame. So that's one of those outlier years. But ultimately, if you look at the other years for the last decade, the CPIE has been higher. And if you look all the way back to 1984, the CPIE ends up being 0.2% over what the CPIW is, which means that seniors and retirees and older folks across this country are actually getting 0.2% less on average on a year-to-year basis than they actually need to make ends meet, or at least have some sort of benefit. Now, overall, as we look at the landscape of Social Security and retirement in general in the USA today, there are a lot of minor changes that could have profound effects on what the golden years in America can look like. Now, I know they don't get all the glitz and glamour of the big changes like Social Security starting at 55 or eliminating Social Security as a whole, depending on which side you're looking at it. But those are things that obviously that get headlines, but these small but important incremental changes could be done now, and really should be done now, to improve the lives of those folks in our country who did end up paying into the system since they were teens, basically, and were promised golden years, and now need the extra assistance to help them make ends meet. And also for folks like myself, who eventually will be there one day, God willing, I hope to have Social Security to rely on as well. But of course, right now, this is all just proposals. What it really will take is political willpower, political courage, and a Congress that is willing to work together to avert the foregone conclusion that Social Security is always going to be a leaky ship with no financial viability. Now, this has been Michael's Matters, and I really hope that you enjoy this video. And if you found it interesting or helpful or at least useful, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And that way you can get updates when my newest and most informative videos get put out. Okay, so that's it for today. I'm Michael, and for Michael's Matters, hoping that you take care of yourself, take care of others, and have a happy, healthy